Production of wine. Wine is an alcoholic beverage obtained by alcoholic fermentation of juice of ripe fruits such as grapes, apples, berries, pomegranate, guava, banana sometimes, etc. etc. So basically, the fruit juice, which is rich in monosaccharides like glucose and fructose, having a sweet taste with acidic pH. Such type of fruit juices can be fermented, allowed to be fermented. So following alcoholic fermentation, the beverage which is obtained is processed and is called as wine. Let us see the different types of wines. So there are various bases of classification of wines. We'll see the simplest ones. Wines may be classified in different ways. The first way of classification is the amount of residual sugar present in the finished wine. So this residual sugar is sufficient enough to cause the sweetness or to bring the sweetness in wine. On the basis of that, the first category is dry wine. As the name indicates, dry. This word is used in relation to the sugar, utilization of sugar. So this is the wine in which fermentation of sugar is practically complete. That means the sugar which is present in the grape juice or fruit juice, it is allowed to be fermented as completely as possible so that there should not be any residual sugar left behind in finished wine. So most of these dry wines contain very small amount of sugar or it is present in undetectable quantity. In contrast to that, another type of wine is sweet wine. So this is the wine which contains the residual sugar which is sufficient to bring a sweetness in finished wine. So in case of making of such wines, the alcoholic fermentation has been arrested or stopped at particular time so that the fermentation of or the utilization of sugar or the conversion of sugar to ethanol is stopped so that it will have a residual sugar in finished wine. So such wines contain sufficient amount of sugar for taste perception. Third category is fortified wine. Fortified wines are processed through fortification. Fortification means strengthening, increasing the strength of wine. So fortified wines are the blended wines. That means their strength is increased or fortified by means of addition of other brands with high alcohol content like brandy or wine spirits. So fortified dry wine is dry wine to which brandy has been added. Fortified sweet wine is sweet wine to which wine spirit have been added. Sparkling wine. Now, this is another category of wine depending on whether wine is sparged with CO2 or not. That means whether it contains carbon dioxide or not. So, on the basis of that, there are two categories. One category is sparkling wine, and another category is still wine. Sparkling wines are sparged with carbon dioxide. The one of the old methods for the making of sparkling wine is bottle fermentation. So wine in which after the completion of fermentation, the further fermentation is carried out in bottle itself, and the purpose of that further process is to add CO2 or to increase the concentration of dissolved CO2 concentration in finished wine. So the sediments being discharged and its place supplied by wine or sugar. So we'll discuss more about this later on. But the concept of sparkling wine is the wine which contains considerable carbon dioxide. So these are the different types of wines which we can see shown in different colors, and the bottles of these sparkling wines are having or which are made up with thick glass because it should withstand the inside pressure of carbon dioxide, and that is why the reason that these bottles are made up with thick wall glass. Then one more category, that is still wine. So still wines are the wines which do not contain carbon dioxide, and these still wines or sparkling wines can be of red type or white type. So this is the classification of wines based on its color. So a red wine is wine whose color is red, and it is prepared from the red color grape variety. So this red color, it is extracted from the skin of the grapes. White wine is made up from the white grapes, not actually white grapes, means those which do not contain any type of pigment, or the expressed fresh juice of other grapes. One specialized type of wine is there called as resin wine. So resin wine is a product of alcoholic fermentation of an infusion of dried or evaporated grapes, or a mixture of such infusion or of resin with grape juice. So basically, these grapes are dried ones, like in Marathi it is called as manuke. So it is responsible for the development of characteristic flavor in finished wine. This is how the white wine looks like. You can see the it is a white sparkling wine, so you can see the bubbles of carbon dioxide. And the red wine, there are several regions in the world which produce different varieties of wines. A large part of world's wine it is produced in the countries located near Mediterranean Sea. France is the leader in manufacturing of wine and the oldest manufacturer. It is followed by several European countries like Italy, Spain, Portugal, Greece, Balkan states, Germany, Algeria, as well as in other continents like Africa, Australia, and United States. So in Asia also, a considerable amount of wine is produced. The chemical composition of wine is it contains the principal components volatile acids. So these volatile acids are acetic acids, propionic acids, which are present in finished wine. Acetic acid is the principal volatile acid of young wines, but old wines contain traces of propionic acid in addition. Formic acid is usually found in deceased wines. That means formic acid is not good for the taste of wine. However, increased concentration of acid in wine, it leads to the spoilage of wine, and sometimes there may be presence of lactic acid in spoiled wine. There are certain fixed acids which are present in wine. They are present in less concentration. However, their high concentration, it leads to the disturbance in the taste and flavor of finished wine. These are tartaric acid, malic acid, and tannic acid. These are originated from the must or the grape must. Grape must is the juice which is prepared from grape. It is called as must. So they are present in wine in various concentrations or various proportions. Most of the tartaric acid, it is removed during the processing or the making of wine, because high concentration of tartaric acid, it makes wine bitter tasty. So especially during the fining process, these acids or the concentration of these acids is removed. Sometimes there may be presence of citric acid. It is dependent on the variety of grapes which is being used. Indian varieties have high concentration of citric acid. Succinic acid is present in very small quantity. Phosphoric acid is a natural constituent of wine. Now, with this brief introduction to the types of wine and the composition of wine, we'll be discussing about the production of wine with reference to manufacturing of red wine and manufacturing of white wine. So the raw materials for the production of red wine are in general the grapes. So very important component in the making of wine is the selection of best variety of grapes, because the quality of finished wine is basically dependent on the raw material which is being used. This raw material has a profound effect on the finished wine and the quality of finished wine. Therefore, it is very important to consider this property, that is selection of variety of grapes. For the production of red wine, there are different varieties like Becklin. These varieties are the global varieties which are also produced in India also in grape farms. Blue Portuguese, Cabernet is one of the varieties which is generally used in India. Sauvignon, Cayenne, Gos Verdot, Merlot is one of the varieties. Then Shiraz. This variety it is seen in India also. So these grapes of different varieties, after the selection of particular variety, they are grown in grape farm, and then these grapes are gathered or they are collected or they are harvested at the stage of its maturity. Whether the grapes are matured or not, or uh, it has developed a sufficient content of sugar or not, It is decided on the basis of concentration of sugar present in the grape juice. So, a representative grape grapes are collected from from a representative branch. A group of grapes is collected, and then juice of that group of grapes is prepared, and the concentration of sugar contained of that grape juice, which is a representative of a line of grape vein, its maturity or the sugar content is determined of representative branch is measured in terms of Balling degree. So the juice desirable juice content should be 21 to 23 Balling degree. So this Balling hydrometer, it is an equipment which is used, which is a type of refractometer. So depending on the refractive index, the grape juice is placed on the glass of that Balling hydrometer, and there is a scale which decides the concentration of sugar present in grape juice depending on its color, and we can determine the concentration of sugar at site itself, and the manufacturer can decide the time of harvesting. If it is 21 to 23 Balling degrees sugar concentration, then the grapes are ready for harvesting. These are the different red varieties. You can see actually the color of the grapes is like this: Chabernet, then this is Syrah, these are the peculiar Indian varieties which are used in the production of white wines. These are Thompson, and the peculiar characteristic is they are seedless. Then Dilkush is another popular variety. Sharad seedless. They are sweet in taste. This is a very interesting variety. Gulabi. You can see the color of this variety is pink. So there is one more variety of wine which is produced in between red and white, and that is called as rose wine. So rose wine has a typical pink color or rose color, which is produced by using this variety of grapes. Then Bokri is another variety which is used in the production of white wine. Then what we eat regularly is Sonaka, Manikchaman, and Ganesh, and Arakta Kanchan. So these are the different colors of grapes which are used, which can be used in the manufacturing of wine. After the harvesting, the second step is the handling of grapes. You can see that there is a coating on grapes, white color coating on grapes, that indicates the growth of yeast. These yeast are wild yeast, and these wild yeast are not desirable for the production. Sometimes it also contains the growth of bacteria such as lactic acid bacteria. Therefore, the primary aim should be to make this grapes or grape juice free from these contaminating yeast and contaminating bacteria. So, in the handling of grapes, these grapes are harvested from the fields and transported to winery. The prime purpose should be to have them arrive in the very best condition possible. The grapes should be picked with care, placed in clean containers, and protected from deterioration. So their storage, it should be avoided. They should be fresh. So careful supervision of the handling of grapes is essential. Then the third is preparation of grape juice. It is called as must. We can see preparation of grape juice, it involves crushing of grapes and de-stemming by machine. So whatever the stems are there, they should be removed, and then the grapes should be crushed. This is one of the old methods that we can see, that there is a big uh, tub. In that tub we can see the grapes are fed, and the few persons are then crushing the grapes with their feet. That was one of the oldest methods. Nowadays we have mechanical machines to perform these functions. So this grape juice contains, the composition of this grape juice is, it is water, carbohydrates, monosaccharides like glucose and fructose, which we call them as fermentable sugars. Fructose is responsible for bringing the sweetness, then some pentoses and pectin. It contains protein split products like peptides. It contains tartaric acid and malic acid, very important. Along with that, it contains several minerals like potassium, sodium, calcium, magnesium, salts of phosphoric acid, sulfuric acid, hydrochloric acid, and silicic acid. It is rich in tannin, which is also called as gallic acid. This is very important. So presence of tannins, presence of tartaric acid, presence of malic acid, it is a characteristic of in grape juice. Then it contains pigments, vitamins, enzymes, and the most important is aroma compounds, that is the volatile acids or esters, which are very important for the development of aroma. The fermentable sugars present in grape juice are glucose and fructose, and they are present in 120 to 250 grams per liter. That is the concentration. It contains pentoses, arabinoses, and rhamnoses, but these are not fermented by yeast. The pH of the grape juice, it is acidic. It is having a pH of 3 to 3.9. That means it is less than 4. And mainly the acids are tartaric and malic acid, but the concentration of tartaric acid and malic acid, it is reduced as the fermentation progresses. So the mechanical machines which are called which perform the function of de-stemming, you can see here, this is the de-stemming, and this machine is performing the separation of unwanted material like stems, and separation of berries. So this grapes are called as berries. So berries are separated from the stems, and then these berries will go into this crusher, where the juice is prepared, and it will be uh, separated from the remaining insoluble stem material. So after the crushing, the grape juice will look like this. So you can see that it is not totally watery. So it is having a coarse material, that means insoluble material. So the grape juice is prepared in this manner such that it will have a pomace, and that pomace is the insoluble material. It is the insoluble material that contains fiber and skin of grapes. So this grape juice, it can be collected, and its content of sugar, it can be determined. After the preparation of this grape juice, the next step is the treatment before fermentation. So the treatment which is given before fermentation is always sterilization. That means the process to make the fermentation raw material free from contaminants like molds, yeast, and bacteria, which are predominantly present on the grape grape berries. Now here there are several treatments. The obvious treatment which is generally used is sterilization by heat, but in this case sterilization by heat is not preferred, because if the grape juice is heated or it is sterilized, then it will lose all its aroma producing compounds. The volatile acids, esters will get destroyed, they will be lost, and therefore the finished wine which is produced will be of a very bad quality. Therefore, the care has to be taken that it is grape juice, it should not be heated. Even pasteurization is also not a suitable method for the treatment. So then the alternative method is sterilization by gases, which is the most preferable method. For this, sulfur dioxide or sulfides are used for destruction or to inhibit the growth of these bacteria. So these undesirable microbes are destroyed, such as acetic acid bacteria, wild yeast, molds, and different types of bacteria, without with minimum amount of injury to the true wine yeast. So the treatment with SO2, it is given through the addition of this chemical. This is potassium metabisulfite, that is KMS. It is added to this grape juice. So this chemical, which is also called as potassium, which is also called as KMS, it is added to the grape juice and it is mixed for 6 hours. During mixing, this KMS, it is oxidized, it reacts with oxygen, dissolved oxygen, and it leads to the production of SO2. This SO2 is a sterilizing agent. This is an oxidizing agent that causes the oxidation of proteins and essential essential biomolecules which are present in the different types of microorganisms. So this SO2, it is generated from this potassium metabisulfite. Potassium metabisulfite is also called as potassium disulfide. So it reacts with water in this which is dissolved. It reacts with oxygen which is dissolved in this grape juice, and the reaction is like this. This is potassium disulfide or metabisulfite. This is a balanced reaction. K2H2O5, it is the potassium disulfide. It reacts with water to form dipotassium sulfate and sulfur dioxide. So this sulfur dioxide, it is responsible for the acting as a sterilizing agent and the killing of uh, contaminating microorganism. As it is stated that this pasteurization uh, should not be used, because pasteurization is also a heating treatment, so it will lead to the loss of aroma compounds, and therefore the best method, universally accepted method, is to use potassium disulfide. So this potassium disulfide, it is mixed with this grape juice for 6 hours. So during these 6 hours SO2 will be produced. SO2 will kill the microorganisms, and after that this SO2, due to continuous agitation, this SO2 will leave this medium, and then the medium is ready for the inoculation by desirable production yeast.